Commander Alexis Warren stood on the bridge of the USS Daedalus. It was Earth's first ship that could travel faster than light. For 2 years, they had been exploring deep space. Now, they had found something big. Through the large window, she saw hundreds of alien ships. They had strange symbols on them. These belonged to the Zoraxian Empire, which had ruled this part of space for over 10,000 years. Alexis took a deep breath. First contact with aliens. This was the moment she had trained for all her life. "Status report," she said to her crew. "Their ships are much more advanced than ours," said Lieutenant Kyle Bishop. He was in charge of weapons and defense. "They have weapons pointed at us. They could destroy us easily." "Open a communication channel," ordered Alexis. The main screen lit up. A tall, lizard-like alien appeared. He had scales that shimmered like metal and eyes that glowed yellow. This was High Admiral Kavath of the Zoraxian Empire. "Unknown vessel," the alien said in a deep voice. Their language translator worked better than expected. "You have entered Zoraxian space. Surrender your ship and prepare to be boarded. Your species will serve the Empire." Alexis smiled politely. "This is Commander Alexis Warren of Earth's USS Daedalus. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations. Perhaps we could meet to discuss a treaty between our peoples?" The alien's expression did not change, but several others in the background made sounds like laughter. "Zoraxians have ruled this galaxy unopposed for 10,000 years, Kavath said. Your primitive species should feel honored to join our empire." While they talked, Kyle was secretly scanning the alien ships. He was sending all the data back to Earth. The aliens didn't notice. Their systems were advanced, but they weren't careful. They were too sure of themselves. "We prefer peace," Alexis said, "but we must decline your offer to surrender. Earth does not wish to serve any empire. We propose equal friendship instead." More laughter from the aliens. "You do not have a choice," Kavath said. "You will surrender or be destroyed as an example to your species." Alexis looked at Kyle, who nodded. He had collected all the data they needed. "Very well," she said. "We will need 1 hour to prepare our crew for boarding." The alien smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You have 30 minutes. Then we will fire if you have not powered down. Your weapons." The screen went black. "All stations prepare for jump," Alexis ordered immediately. "Send the warning beacon." The crew moved quickly. They had practiced this many times. In less than 5 minutes, the USS Daedalus was ready to use its experimental faster-than-light drive. "Launch the beacon," Alexis said. A small device shot out from the ship. It would activate once they were gone. It would send a simple message in the Zoraxian language. "For your safety, do not pursue. Humans fight differently." "Drive ready, Commander," said the navigation officer, Steve Miller. "Jump now," ordered Alexis. The stars stretched into lines of light. The ship vanished just as the Zoraxians fired their first shots. The energy beams passed through empty space. Back on Earth, the United Earth Council met immediately when they received the data from the Daedalus. The room was filled with military leaders, scientists, and government officials. "This is worse than we feared," said General Diana Winters. "The Zoraxians have conquered thousands of worlds. They see us as nothing more than future slaves." Dr. Ethan Reyes, the lead scientist for Earth's defense systems, stood up. "But they've made a critical mistake. They've shown us their technology, and Lieutenant Bishop's scans give us enough information to start developing countermeasures." "How much time do we have?" asked the council president. Admiral Garrett Wilson answered. "Based on their technology, I'd estimate 6 months before they reach Earth. They don't have instant travel. They'll send a fleet to pacify us. That's their usual method, according to the historical data in their computers that Bishop managed to access." 6 months to prepare for an alien invasion," the president said. "Can we be ready?" Dr. Samantha Mills, Earth's top expert in adapting alien technology, smiled. 6 months is more than we need. The Zoraxians have conquered so many worlds so easily that they've grown lazy. Their tactics haven't changed in centuries because they've never needed to change. But humans, Admiral Wilson said, we've been fighting wars against each other for our entire history. We've mastered adaptation in combat. We know how to win against superior forces. The Council voted immediately. Earth would prepare for war. Over the next 6 months, the entire solar system was transformed. The asteroid belt became a hidden weapon platform. Jupiter's moons housed new shipyards where Earth's first battle fleet was being built. Mars became a training ground for space combat, and Earth itself was surrounded by layers of defense systems designed by Dr. Mills. Commander Warren's ship returned just in time. The USS Daedalus had been upgraded and was now even faster. She would lead a DL special squadron designed for hit-and-run attacks. They think we'll be easy to conquer, Alexis told her crew. They have no idea what they're in for. The entire defense force remembered the lesson from Earth's history. When Imperial Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in 1941, Admiral Yamamoto had reportedly said, "I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant." The Zoraxians were about to learn the same lesson. On the day their sensors detected the Zoraxian fleet entering the outer solar system, Admiral Wilson addressed all defense forces. "Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for every species these conquerors have enslaved," he said. "We fight to show the galaxy that freedom is worth defending. The Zoraxians expect us to surrender or die. Let's show them a third option they haven't considered." The Zoraxian fleet approached in perfect formation. They were following the same tactics they had used for thousands of years. They expected to face primitive weapons and desperate resistance that would quickly crumble. What they didn't expect was that humanity had spent 6 months preparing a surprise welcome party. And humans were very good at surprises. High Commander Zulgar of the Zoraxian Pacification Fleet was completely confident. This would be an easy victory, like hundreds before it. His empire had never lost. These humans would soon serve the Zoraxian Empire, like all others before them. He had no idea he was about to make history by suffering the Zoraxian Empire's first defeat in 10,000 years. 6 months after the first contact, the Zoraxian Empire sent a large fleet to the Sol system. High Commander Zulgar led this fleet. He had one simple job: make Earth surrender and add humans to the Empire's collection of servant species. "This will be an easy victory," Zulgar told his officers. "These humans have only just discovered space travel. They cannot stand against our might." What the Zoraxians did not understand was that humans were different from other species they had conquered. Humans had spent their entire history fighting each other. They had become very good at war. They had learned how to fight smart, not just with power. They knew about surprise attacks, hiding their strengths and finding enemy weaknesses. The Zoraxian fleet entered the solar system with great confidence. They expected to find a single planet with simple defenses. Instead, they found a whole system ready for war. "Sir, I'm detecting strange energy readings from the asteroid belt," reported a Zoraxian sensor officer. "Ignore it," ordered Zulgar. "It's just mining operations. Focus on the Earth defenses." That was his first mistake. As the fleet passed the asteroid belt, hundreds of hidden weapons platforms activated. They fired special missiles that the Zoraxians had never seen before. These missiles didn't try to blow up the ships. Instead, they attached to the hulls and released tiny robots that began eating through the metal. "We're under attack," shouted the weapons officer. "Hull breaches on 30 vessels." "Impossible," said Zulgar. "There are no ships near us. Who is attacking?" By the time they realized what was happening, they had lost 10% of their fleet. Zulgar ordered the remaining ships to increase speed. They needed to reach Earth quickly and end this. Near the orbit of Mars, they met the second line of defense. Small, fast human ships appeared suddenly from behind Mars' moons. These ships were led by Commander Alexis Warren in the USS Daedalus. "Remember your training," Alexis told her pilots. "Hit and run. Don't stay in one place. Use the tactics we practiced." The human ships darted in and out, firing at the Zoraxian vessels and then disappearing before they could be hit. The Zoraxians were used to fighting big battles in open space. They didn't know how to fight enemies that wouldn't stay still. "They're not following proper battle protocols," Yenning complained, Zulgar's second-in-command. "This isn't how space combat works." "Adapt," shouted Zulgar. But his officers didn't know how. They had never needed to change their tactics before. The human ships retreated and Zulgar thought they had won. But they had only lost 20 ships while the Zoraxians had lost over 100. As they approached Earth, they saw the planet surrounded by strange devices. "What are those?" asked Zulgar. "Unknown technology," replied his science officer. "They appear to be defensive in nature. These were Dr. Samantha Mills's special defense systems. They used the Zoraxians' own energy against them. When the Zoraxian ships fired their weapons, the defense systems absorbed the energy and sent it back stronger. The first wave of attack ships fired at Earth. Their energy beams hit the defense systems and bounced back, destroying 50 Zoraxian ships instantly. "Cease fire," ordered Zulgar. "They're reflecting our weapons." But it was too late. More ships fired and were destroyed by their own energy. Panic spread through the fleet. From Earth, Admiral Garrett Wilson watched with satisfaction. "Launch the counterattack," he ordered. From hidden bases on the Moon and in Earth orbit, hundreds of human ships appeared. They were smaller than the Zoraxian vessels but much faster, and they carried weapons designed specifically to target Zoraxian weaknesses. Captain Alan Murphy led the main attack group. His ships targeted the Zoraxian command vessels. "Remember," he told his pilots, "aim for their communication arrays. Cut off their ability to coordinate." The human ships fired with perfect accuracy. One by one, the Zoraxian command ships lost their ability to communicate with each other. Without clear orders, the fleet fell into confusion. "We need to retreat," shouted Zulgar's advisors. "We've lost half the fleet already." Zulgar couldn't believe it. How could these primitives be defeating the mighty Zoraxian Empire? It was impossible, but the evidence was clear on his screens. His beautiful fleet was being torn apart. "Order a retreat," he finally said, his voice filled with shame. The remaining Zoraxian ships turned and fled, but the humans weren't finished. Captain Murphy's ships pursued them, picking off stragglers and damaging as many ships as possible. "Don't let them get away clean," ordered Admiral Wilson. "They need to remember this lesson." By the time the Zoraxians escaped the solar system, they had lost over 60% of their fleet. It was the worst defeat in the history of their empire. On the Zoraxian homeworld, Emperor Zelthrak was furious. He had never experienced failure before. "How did this happen?" he demanded of High Commander Zulgar, who knelt before him in shame. "The humans, they fight differently," Zulgar tried to explain. "They don't follow the rules of combat. They use tricks and traps. They hide their strength and then strike from unexpected directions." "They are primitives," shouted the Emperor. "How can they defeat our advanced technology?" Admiral Kavath, who had encountered the humans first, stepped forward. "That's exactly why they won, Your Excellency. They are primitive, so they think differently. They fight like cornered animals. They don't care about honor or proper battle formation. They only care about winning, no matter the method." The Emperor paced in anger. "I want to know everything about these humans. Study their history, their warfare, their weaknesses. We will not be humiliated again." Meanwhile, on Earth, there was cautious celebration. They had won the first battle, but everyone knew the war had just begun. "The Zoraxians will be back," Admiral Wilson told the Earth Council, "and next time they'll be more prepared." Dr. Ethan Reyes nodded. "We've studied the data from the battle. The Zoraxians learn slowly. They've been winning for so long that they don't know how to adapt quickly. But they will adapt eventually. Then we need to hit them before they can," said General Diana Winters. "We need to take the fight to them." "That's a huge risk," said the Council President. "We barely know anything about their empire." "Actually," said Commander Warren, "Lieutenant Bishop downloaded a significant amount of data from their ships during the battle. We have star maps, fleet positions, even information about some of their subject worlds." The Council was silent as they considered this information. Finally, Admiral Wilson spoke. "We have a choice. Wait for them to return with a bigger force or strike first and show them that attacking Earth was their biggest mistake." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not wait to be attacked again. They would take the war to the Zoraxian Empire. In Dao, the shipyards around Jupiter's moons, a new fleet was already being built. These ships incorporated both human innovation and reverse-engineered Zoraxian technology. They were faster, stronger, and smarter, than anything the Zoraxians had ever seen. The flagship of this fleet was named Defiance. It would be commanded by Captain Nancy Chen, whose tactical genius had never been defeated even in the most challenging simulations. As the new fleet prepared for its mission, a message was sent to every human ship and base. It contained just a few words from Admiral Wilson. "Remember, we're not fighting for conquest. We're fighting for our right to exist free from empire. Show the galaxy what humans stand for." The Zoraxian Empire had ruled for 10,000 years, but they had never faced an enemy like humanity before, and humans were just getting started. The United Earth Council met in their underground chamber beneath the rebuilt city of Geneva. The room was silent as General Diana Winters stood before them. On the large screen behind her were images of the damaged Zoraxian ships fleeing Earth's solar system. "We won the first battle," Diana said, "but this war has just begun. The Zoraxian Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. They have thousands of worlds and millions of ships. They will not accept defeat." "What do you suggest?" asked the Council President. Diana pointed to a star map. "We cannot wait for them to attack again. We need to take the fight to them, show them that attacking Earth was a mistake they will regret for generations." Dr. Ethan Reyes, lead scientist of Project Phoenix, stepped forward. He was a quiet man who rarely raised his voice, but when he spoke, everyone listened. "We have created a new fleet," he said. "These ships combine our human creativity with technology we learned from the Zoraxian vessels we captured. They are faster, more adaptable, and have weapons the Zoraxians have never seen." The lights dimmed, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a sleek ship, larger than the USS Daedalus, but more elegant than the bulky Zoraxian vessels. "This is the Defiance," Dr. Reyes said with pride. "The first of our new attack fleet. 20 more like it are nearly complete in the shipyards around Jupiter's moons." "Who will command this fleet?" asked a council member. Admiral Garrett Wilson stood up. "Captain Nancy Chen. Her tactical mind is unmatched. In over 500 battle simulations against alien strategies, she has never lost." The council voted unanimously to approve the offensive mission. Humanity would not wait to be attacked again. While Earth prepared its counterattack, the Zoraxian Empire was in chaos. On their homeworld Zor Prime, Emperor Zelthrak sat on his throne of conquered metals. Before him knelt the surviving officers from the failed attack on Earth. "How could primitives defeat the might of our empire?" the Emperor demanded. "They fight like no species we have ever encountered," said Admiral Kavoth, still nursing wounds from the battle. "They do not follow proper combat protocols. They use tricks and traps. They adapt too quickly." "And worst of all," added High Commander Zulgar, "they seem to enjoy it. When our ships were exploding, we intercepted communications between their vessels. They were laughing." The Emperor stood up, his scales flashing with anger. "I want a full attack fleet assembled. We will crush these humans completely." "Your Excellency," said his chief advisor cautiously, "perhaps we should try diplomacy first? Offer them terms they cannot refuse?" The Emperor thought for a moment. "Yes. We will send emissaries with a generous peace offer. While they are distracted with negotiations, we will prepare our grand fleet." On Earth, Captain Nancy Chen inspected her new ship, the Defiance. It gleamed under the lights of Jupiter's largest moon shipyard. Unlike the boxy, functional designs of most human ships, this vessel had been built for both beauty and deadliness. "She's magnificent," Nancy said to the chief engineer. "Wait until you see what she can do," the engineer replied with a grin. "The weapon systems are like nothing we've ever built before, and the drive system can move faster than anything the Zoraxians have." Nancy walked through the ship, meeting her crew. They were the best Earth had to offer: pilots, engineers, tactical officers, and scientists, all chosen for their ability to think creatively in dangerous situations. "The Zoraxians believe they are predators," Nancy told them during their first briefing. "We need to show them they've actually found another apex species, one that evolved on a world much more dangerous than theirs." The fleet left Earth's solar system using a new jump technology developed from the Zoraxian ship's data. They could move faster and farther than any human vessels before. Their mission was not conquest but strategic strikes to weaken the Zoraxian Empire and show them that humans were not easy prey. As the human fleet departed, 3 large Zoraxian ships entered the solar system. They carried emissaries from Emperor Zelthrak with a peace offer. They were surprised to find only civilian leaders waiting to meet them. "Where are your military commanders?" asked the lead emissary. Olivia Martinez, Earth's chief diplomatic officer, smiled politely. "They are not needed for peace talks. I have full authority to negotiate on behalf of Earth." The Zoraxians did not know that this was a deliberate strategy. While they engaged in lengthy negotiations, the human fleet was already deep in Zoraxian space, striking at military targets. Captain Chen's first target was a Zoraxian supply depot near the edge of their territory. The Defiance and 2 smaller ships appeared suddenly near the station. "They have minimal defenses," reported the sensor officer. "They don't expect enemies this deep in their territory." "Target their communication array first," ordered Nancy. "Then weapons, then engines. We want the station disabled, not destroyed." The human ships moved with precision. Within minutes, the Zoraxian station was helpless, unable to call for help or defend itself. "Open a channel," Nancy said. On the screen, a confused Zoraxian commander appeared. His eyes widened when he saw humans. "This station is now under human control," Nancy told him calmly. "Your crew has 2 options. Surrender peacefully and you will be treated well. Resist, and you will be confined to the brig until the end of hostilities." The Zoraxian commander, who had never faced defeat in his long career, could only stare in shock before surrendering. Similar scenes played out across the edge of Zoraxian space. Human ships appeared at military installations, disabled them with surgical precision, and then disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Unlike the Zoraxians, who conquered and occupied, the humans struck and vanished, leaving fear and confusion in their wake. And they weren't just attacking. At each conquered facility, the humans freed the enslaved species who worked there. They offered them weapons, training, and a choice. Join the fight against the Zoraxians, or simply go. Free many chose to join. Species that had been conquered for generations saw humans as liberators. The Valerians, a race of skilled engineers, were especially eager to help. They had been forced to build Zoraxian weapons for centuries on the industrial world of Nexus 7. A team led by Chief Engineer Paul Jackson arrived to find the Valerians already in revolt. The local Zoraxian overseers had fled at the first news of approaching human ships. "We've come to help," Jackson told the Valerian leader, offering advanced weapons and tactical advice. Word spread quickly throughout the Empire. Humans weren't conquerors. They were liberators. They didn't want slaves. They wanted allies. It was a concept the Zoraxian Empire had never encountered before, and they had no idea how to fight it. Emperor Zelthrak received increasingly alarming reports. Human ships were appearing throughout his empire, striking military targets with precise attacks before disappearing again. Worse, enslaved species were revolting, inspired by human example. The peace talks must be a trick, he realized too late. They are distracting us while they attack. He sent an urgent message to his emissaries on Earth. End the negotiations immediately and return. But when they tried to leave, they found their ship's engines mysteriously disabled. It would take weeks to repair them. Meanwhile, Captain Chen's fleet had grown. Ships from liberated worlds joined her, bringing knowledge of Zoraxian tactics and weaknesses. The fleet struck deeper into the Empire, targeting military shipyards, weapon factories, and command centers. "Why are you helping us?" a liberated Tellarite asked Nancy. "What do you want in return?" "Freedom isn't just for humans," she replied. "We believe all species deserve the right to choose their own path." The Tellarite, whose people had been slaves for 15 generations, couldn't understand. "But you're stronger. Why don't you just take what you want like the Zoraxians did?" Nancy smiled. "Because that's not who we are. Humans have fought among ourselves for most of our history. We've learned the hard way that conquest brings only temporary power. True strength comes from cooperation and mutual respect. As the human-led alliance grew, the Zoraxian Empire faced something it had never experienced, a war it might lose. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Emperor felt fear. News of the human attack spread quickly across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Zoraxian rule for generations watched in amazement as the mighty empire found itself on the defensive for the first time in memory. On the mining world of Rigel 4, a group of enslaved Andorians paused in their work as their Zoraxian overseers suddenly began shouting into their communication devices. Minutes later, the overseers ran to their ships and fled, leaving behind confused slaves. "What is happening?" asked one Andorian to another. Their question was answered when 3 human ships appeared in orbit. Unlike Zoraxian vessels, which were large and threatening, these ships were smaller and sleeker. A voice came over the communication system that the Zoraxians had left behind. "People of Rigel 4, this is Captain Lisa Peterson of Earth's ship Liberty. Your Zoraxian masters have fled. You are now free." The Andorians didn't believe it at first. Freedom was a concept many had never experienced. When human shuttles landed, and the strange soft-skinned aliens stepped out without weapons, the Andorians were even more confused. "We don't want to rule you," Captain Peterson told them. "We want to free you. You can choose your own path now." Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds on the edge of Zoraxian space. The human strategy was simple but effective. Liberate, not conquer. They targeted worlds with valuable resources or strategic positions, freeing the local species and offering them a choice: join the fight against the Zoraxians or simply go their own way. Most chose to join. After generations of slavery, the chance for revenge was too sweet to pass up. But what surprised many was that the humans didn't demand obedience. They asked for partnership. "We are forming the first multi-species coalition in galactic history," Captain Peterson explained to representatives from 7 recently freed worlds. "Not an empire where one species rules others, but an alliance where all have equal voice." The Zoraxian Empire had no protocols for dealing with this kind of insurgency. Their military was designed to crush direct opposition, not fight an enemy that refused to follow the rules of war. When they fortified one world, humans struck elsewhere. When they destroyed one human ship, 3 more appeared. Their rigid command structure couldn't adapt to humanity's flexible approach. Emperor Zelthrak, facing increasing pressure from both military losses and revolts on subject worlds, called his advisors together. "How are these primitives defeating us?" he demanded. "We have ruled for 10,000 years. Our technology is superior in every way." His chief scientist, a Zoraxian named Vexcor, who had been studying human history, spoke up. "Their technology is not what makes them dangerous, Your Excellency. It is their thinking. In our 10,000 years of conquest, we have always won through overwhelming force. We never needed to develop alternative strategies." "But the humans," Vexcor continued, "they evolved on a world where they were surrounded by predators. They weren't the strongest or fastest creatures on their planet. They survived through intelligence and adaptability." The Emperor paced back and forth, his scales changing color with his emotions. "What about their endless attacks? How can such a small species maintain so many fronts?" "They're not," said his military advisor. "Our reports indicate that many attacks are being carried out by former subject species using human tactics and some human technology. The humans are teaching others how to fight us." This was the most disturbing news of all. For thousands of years, the Zoraxian Empire had maintained control by keeping subject species isolated from each other, preventing them from sharing knowledge or forming alliances. Humans were breaking down those barriers, creating something the galaxy had never seen before. On the newly liberated world of Centauri Prime, Captain Nancy Chen of the Defiance met with leaders from 12 different species. They gathered in a grand hall that once housed Zoraxian governors. "We need to formalize our alliance," Nancy said. "The Zoraxians are reorganizing their forces. They're adapting, slowly but surely. We need to be ready for their counterattack." A tall, blue-skinned Arcturian stood up. Why should we trust humans? You are new to the galaxy. How do we know you won't become just like the Zoraxians once they are defeated? Nancy nodded. A fair question. I can only offer you this answer. Earth has already rejected the path of empire. We could have conquered the worlds we liberated, replaced Zoraxian rule with human rule. But that is not our way. What is your way? Asked a small furry Praxian. Partnership, Nancy replied. Humans believe that diversity creates strength. Different perspectives, different abilities, different ways of thinking, all coming together to create something greater than any one species could achieve alone. This concept was revolutionary in a galaxy that had known only conquest and submission for millennia. Some species were skeptical, but most saw the wisdom in Nancy's words. By the end of the meeting, the Galactic Coalition was born, the first true multi-species alliance in known history. While the coalition organized, the Zoraxian Empire prepared for a massive counteroffensive. Emperor Zelthrak ordered the assembly of the Grand Armada, every military vessel in the Empire, to crush the human homeworld once and for all. We will make an example of Earth, he declared to his commanders. We will turn their planet to ash so that no species ever dares to challenge us again. What the Zoraxians didn't realize was that their plans were no longer secret. Coalition spies, many former slaves who still appeared loyal, passed information to human intelligence officers. Every move the Empire made was known to Captain Chen, almost immediately. The Coalition fleet, now nearly 300 ships from 24 species, gathered near the strategic choke point of the Caledon Nebula. It was here that the Zoraxian Grand Armada would have to pass on its way to Earth. Admiral Doug Harding, a veteran of Earth's first defense, took command of the combined fleet. His flagship, the Earth vessel Determination, was positioned at the center of their formation. We have one advantage the Zoraxians will never understand, Doug told his captains during their final briefing. They fight because they are ordered to. We fight because we choose to. They fight for conquest. We fight for freedom. That makes all the difference. Dr. Susan Kelly, Earth's foremost expert on spatial phenomena, had spent months studying the Caledon Nebula. Her team had placed hundreds of special devices throughout the gas clouds, devices that could alter gravitational fields in specific ways. The nebula is unstable, she explained to Admiral Harding. With the right push in the right places, we can create a cascade of spatial distortions that will disable their ship's primary systems. Not permanently, but long enough to give us an advantage. The human and coalition ships waited in hidden positions throughout the nebula. Their engines were powered down to avoid detection. Only minimal life support systems remained active. It was uncomfortable but necessary for the ambush to work. As they waited, many coalition members shared stories about their worlds, their cultures, their histories. Humans learned that they weren't the only species with a fighting spirit. The Andorians had resisted Zoraxian rule for decades before being crushed. The Arcturians had a proud warrior tradition dating back thousands of years. The small Praxians were brilliant tacticians despite their unassuming appearance. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the freedom of every species in this galaxy, Admiral Harding told them in a final message before communication silence was imposed. Remember, we are not just fighting against the Zoraxian Empire. We are fighting for a new way of life in this galaxy, one where all species can determine their own fate. As the Coalition fleet waited in silence, their sensors detected the approach of the Zoraxian Grand Armada. 10,000 ships strong, it was the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. At its center was the Emperor's own command ship, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the largest Coalition cruiser. The trap was set. The battle that would change the galaxy forever was about to begin. And at the heart of it all were humans, a species that the Zoraxians had dismissed as primitives just months earlier. Emperor Zelthrak stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching as the Armada entered the nebula. He was confident that this overwhelming display of force would crush the human-led rebellion once and for all. After all, no empire had stood against the Zoraxians for 10,000 years. But he had never faced humans before, and humans fought differently. The Battle of Caledon Nebula began in silence. The Zoraxian Grand Armada, 10,000 ships strong, moved through the colorful gas clouds with supreme confidence. Emperor Zelthrak stood on his command ship's bridge, watching the massive fleet on the view screens. "The rebels have chosen to hide in this nebula," he told his officers. "A foolish decision. They have trapped themselves." What the Emperor didn't know was that the nebula had been chosen carefully. For months, Dr. Susan Kelly and her team had studied this region of space. They had placed hundreds of special devices throughout the gas clouds. These devices could change gravity in specific ways. Hidden among the colorful gases, Admiral Doug Harding waited with the Coalition fleet. 300 ships against 10,000 seemed like impossible odds. But humans specialized in beating impossible odds. "All ships maintain position," Doug ordered quietly. "Wait for my signal." As the center of the Zoraxian fleet entered the densest part of the nebula, Doug gave the order. "Dr. Kelly, activate the devices." Susan pressed a sequence of commands on her console. Throughout the nebula, the hidden devices activated at once. They created a wave of gravitational changes that rippled through space. The effect was immediate. The nebula itself seemed to come alive. Gas clouds collapsed and expanded in a chain reaction. Energy discharges like lightning struck the Zoraxian ships. Their shields flickered and died. Communication systems went offline. Weapon systems overloaded. "What is happening?" demanded Emperor Zelthrak as his own flagship shuddered and emergency lights flashed. "Unknown, Your Excellency," replied his science officer in panic. "It appears the nebula itself is attacking us." That was the moment Admiral Harding had been waiting for. "All ships, attack pattern Omega. Remember our targets. Weapons, communications, engines, in that order." The Coalition ships powered up and emerged from their hiding places. They struck with perfect coordination. Small, fast ships darted between the confused Zoraxian vessels, firing at specific weak points. Larger Coalition cruisers engaged the Zoraxian command ships. Captain Nancy Chen led a special squadron directly toward the Emperor's flagship. "Squad Alpha, with me," she ordered. "We're going for the head of the snake." The Zoraxians tried to respond, but their rigid command structure was broken. Without clear orders from above, ship captains didn't know what to do. Some fired blindly into the nebula, others tried to flee. Many collided with each other in the confusion. From his command ship, Emperor Zelthrak watched in horror as his invincible armada fell apart. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his advisors. "They are primitives." The answer came from his chief scientist, Vexicor. "They are not primitives, my Emperor. They are survivors. Their entire history has been shaped by conflict and adaptation. While we conquered through overwhelming force, they developed countless ways to defeat superior opponents." On the bridge of the Determination, Admiral Harding directed the battle with calm confidence. "Concentrate fire on their flagship," he ordered. "We need to end this quickly." The Coalition ships focused their attack on the Emperor's massive vessel. Its shields were stronger than the others, but even they couldn't withstand the combined firepower. One by one, the shield generators failed. Nancy Chen's squadron executed a perfect attack run, targeting the flagship's main weapon arrays. "Fire everything we've got!" she commanded. The weapons exploded in a chain reaction that spread throughout the enormous ship. Secondary explosions ripped through its hull. The mighty vessel, pride of the Zoraxian Empire, began to drift helplessly. Throughout the nebula, the battle turned into a rout. Zoraxian ships surrendered or fled. Those that tried to fight were quickly disabled. The Coalition forces, though vastly outnumbered, had every advantage: surprise, preparation, and most importantly, the will to fight for their freedom. After just 3 hours, it was over. The greatest space battle in galactic history ended with the unthinkable: the defeat of the Zoraxian Empire. Captain Ben Rogers of the Human Diplomatic Corps approached the Emperor's disabled vessel with an offer: unconditional surrender, or complete destruction. Emperor Zelthrak, whose ancestors had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, faced a choice no Zoraxian emperor had ever faced before. Pride demanded he fight to the death. but survival instinct was stronger. "I will speak with the human leaders," he said finally. The peace conference was held on neutral ground, an uninhabited planet near the border of what had been Zoraxian space. Representatives from every coalition species attended. At its center were the humans, the species that had achieved in months what others had failed to do for millennia. "You have defeated us," Emperor Zelthrak admitted to Admiral Harding. "What, now will you destroy our worlds, enslave our people as we enslaved others?" Doug shook his head. "That is not our way. Humans know the cost of endless war and revenge. We offer something different." Captain Rogers presented the terms. The Zoraxian Empire would end. All conquered worlds would be freed. But the Zoraxian people would not be punished. They would keep their homeworld and nearby colonies. They would have equal membership in the new Galactic Confederation, a union of free worlds where all species had representation. "This is unexpected," the Emperor said, genuinely confused. "Why show mercy when you have total victory?" Admiral Harding offered a simple explanation. "We didn't fight you because we wanted to rule. We fought you because we wanted to be free, and we believe every species deserves that same right." In the years that followed, the galaxy changed forever. The Galactic Confederation grew as more worlds joined voluntarily. The former subject species of the Empire rebuilt their own cultures and societies, many with human assistance. Even the Zoraxians, after initial resistance, found their place in the new galactic order. Earth became the diplomatic center of the Confederation, but not its ruler. Humans insisted on equal representation for all member worlds, large or small. It was a revolutionary concept in a galaxy that had known only empire and conquest. Captain Nancy Chen, now Admiral Chen, often told new recruits to the Confederation fleet, "We succeeded where others failed, because we understood something the Zoraxians never did. True strength doesn't come from domination, it comes from cooperation and respect for difference." Humans spread throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors but as explorers, traders, and teachers. Their adaptability and creativity made them valued members of any community. Their fighting spirit made them respected by former enemies. As for the Zoraxians, they slowly changed as well. The younger generation embraced the new order, finding freedom more interesting than conquest. They became known for their art and architecture rather than their military might. When other aggressive species asked about the wisdom of challenging the Confederation, especially humans, former Emperor Zelthrak, now a respected elder statesman, gave a single piece of advice born from bitter experience. "If humans warn you to run, you run." Throughout the galaxy, the story spread. A tale of the strange, contradictory humans, terrifying in battle yet merciful in victory. A species that could have built an empire of their own but chose partnership instead. It was a lesson that would be remembered for millennia to come. Never underestimate humans. They fight differently,